Chapter 145 The Face of a Holy Warrior. Ga. Ha 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 ha. And my name is Shiro. Familiar of the Holy Warrior Power. Who are you? You have failed to realize despite falling prey to such enormous arcane energy? Ask yourself, familiar Shiro. Or should I say, Pochim? How did you know that name? What in the world dash? I am one without a name, yet my existence is known by every life in this world. Why that can't be. Oh, but it can. I am the Devil King. To you insignificant mortals, I am the bringer of despair. As if I'll let you have your way. I am the most powerful of supreme beings. I will destroy you. A familiar without a master is nothing but cannon fodder. Now that the super genius philosopher Asley is no more, it is but a simple task to send you to your grave. See cannon fodder? You dare call me the prettiest and sweetest of sweets, cannon fodder? What is so wrong with stating the facts, Now the conversation has dragged on long enough. Pochi, familiar of super-duper genius philosopher Asley. If you do not surrender, I shall have you retire. From your life forever. Okay, stop. What in the blazes? We were just getting to the good part. Do you even need to ask? What's up with you calling me cannon fodder? Well, I thought the Devil King might say something like that. Yeah. No, he won't. He'll probably go, I won't let you bully me. While in fear of my presence. Yeah, some Devil King that is. What, is he gonna win a fight with cuteness? Also, what's up with your description of yourself? Super genius philosopher Asley. Seriously? You're one to talk. The prettiest and sweetest of sweets. Really? I don't see anything wrong with that. Neither did I for mine then. I wanna be sweets. I wanna be philosopher. You damned fool. You damned furball. What in the world made you think the Devil King would appear around Brunnera anyway? It's all B-ranked monsters in the region north of here. For crying out loud. You're the one who started asking me what we would do if we met the Devil King. So we're doing this image training thing. Yes. And you were so into it that it turned into you just role-playing Holy Warrior instead. Hey, my acting skills are too good to be considered just role-playing. Besides, you were totally enjoying it. You're one to talk, master. Well, the great hero Asley, who had died on the way to save his friends, was supposed to be revived at the point you stopped. Would have been super hyped to surprise the heck out of the Devil King with that moment. It's unfair that you got to hog the awesome entrance for yourself. Kill me too. I see. You think it'd be better that both of us make the entrance at once, huh? Then let's give it a try. Not. It's about time for the Adventurers Guild to free up. Come on, let's go. Yes, sir. Time sure flies when we're having fun with our role-playing. The more elaborate the role-play, the bigger dreams we'll have after all. Once we had arrived at Brunnera, Lilia immediately left us. Giorno remarked how we might meet again if fate would have it, and then faded into the hustle and bustle of the town. I suppose defeating one giant murderer wasn't quite enough to earn their recognition, considering how Giorno had taken 2, and Lilia 3. Our levels were still relatively low, and so was our knowledge of things in this era. Fatigued from the journey, we had spent a night resting up before visiting the Adventurers Guild with the intention to raise our levels. Seeing how the place was so crowded, though, we had gone out for a walk all the way out here, and ended up doing the role-playing thing, with Pochi becoming the familiar of a holy warrior, and me playing the Devil King. Setting and script planning had taken 2 hours. Then the actual play went on for 5 minutes before it had been stopped. The time now was mere minutes before noon. We headed back to the Adventurers Guild, thinking it ought to have freed up some space by now. Sure enough, the long queue was now gone. Pochi and I were finally able to put our hands on the precious craft circle. In anticipation of the final result, I distracted myself from the countless fanfares that rang up in my head. Once that was over, I invoked my appraisal glasses. Ooh. I name. Asley titles. The Eternal Fool, the Polarizing, Hermit Candidate, Great Mage, Advanced Alchemist, Staff Master, 6 Archmages, Tentative, Honored Teacher, Rank S, Top Student, Papa, No Guts, SS Slayer, Guardian Mage, Tentative, The Strong, the Swift, Below Familiar, Ancient Slayer, Devil King, Tentative LV, 131 HP, 6091 MP, 69,999 EXP. 28,877,409 special skills. Attack magic, skilled. Support magic, skilled. Recovery magic, skilled. Purification, skilled. Fortify strength, fortify resilience, tempest, light body. Name. Pochi titles. Advanced familiar, the powerful wolf saint, watchwolf mage, one who requires earplugs, godparent, sweet tooth, the one raised by the fool, the swift, the strong, ancient slayer, sweets, tentative LV. 147 HP. 13,122 MP. 3,842 EXP. 41,705,318 special skills. Breath attack, zenith. Air claw, gigantification, tempest, fortify strength, light body, fortify resilience, attack magic, elementary. Support magic, intermediate. Recovery magic, elementary. I'm actually turning into the Devil King. The weird thing aside, the growth rates of my HP and MP were quite remarkable after I had gone past level 100. Could this be the power of God at work? No wonder the difference was so great compared to our original time. I'm actually turning into sweets. Hey, my glasses. When do you even dash? Seeing Pochi wear my glasses without permission, I reached to snatch them back and realized that something was different with my body. Whoa! I feel light as a feather. Leveling up by the dozens at once will give you that feeling, yes. Keep in mind that things have been easy since Giorno and Lilia have been helping us raise our levels up to now. We won't have them around from now on. Though, we've got to trudge our way through by ourselves. Quite rare to hear Pochi take things seriously, but well, she was right. Giorno had said that he would head back to Sodom after he finished up his businesses here. So it would indeed be a long time until we meet again, if at all. If fate wouldn't have it that way. Hey, don't hog him to yourself. What? If you're going to complain, why don't you go find someone else? I'm obviously the prettier one, right, my boy? Ha 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 ha. No catfighting around here, you two. If it was by God's will that we had been brought to this era, then I wonder, what should we be doing? We hadn't received any instruction from the divine messenger. Perhaps it would be safe to assume that the original order, devoting myself to my studies, still held true. Now, I'm not that small. Are you saying that you have nothing but size, Shut up. You're one to talk, having a washboard for your chest. Ha 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 ha, your sizes don't matter. I'll always be your hero. As things stood, we currently could get stronger only while in this era. So what I'm thinking of for now is to level up as much as possible, while also searching for the formula of the limit breakthrough craft circle, or at least its details, to bring back to our future. It's a lot to take on, but our experiences in this era will surely prove to be useful down the line. Oh, Lil G, you're so sweet. Really, I just can't get enough of you. Ha 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 ha, I don't know about that. Maybe we'll have to wait for tonight to be sure, Yeesh. You naughty boy. I mustn't turn around. If I do, the idealistic image I have of a holy warrior will crumble to pieces. These three voices I had been hearing for a while now. I was sure that one among them was someone I knew, but I had a feeling that I mustn't look. My assumption was that the three included small, sizable, and that guy. I'd never expected him to be the kind to start drinking at the Adventurers Guild in the middle of the day. When the conversation behind us started to escalate, Pochi covered her face with her paws and bolted right out of the guild. We won't have them around from now on. Huh? Who said that again? I'll remember to slap Pochi's tail as punishment later. Yeah, it's gonna feel real good. Anyways, we still have a week's worth of spending money left, so there's no need to overwork ourselves with the quests. Hunting monsters in the region should be more than enough for us to get by while we plan our next move. Alright, let's do that. For now though, I just have to walk away and excuse myself from the guild. Well, if it isn't my man Poer. My clothes do stand out quite a bit in this era, so I suppose it was just a matter of time until we were found again. I turned around in an awkward motion to see Giorno there, conversing in a topic I wasn't versed in at all. Fortunately, he only grinned and energetically waved to me. I answered him with a strained smile and waved while trying to keep my hands from shaking. Giorno, without saying anything, proceeded to point to one corner of the bulletin board. What is it? Oh, there's a peculiar request paper stuck there. Could it be that he was recommending a good quest for me? Assuming that, I bowed lightly to thank Giorno before walking up to the board. This particular one was spaced quite far away from the rest. Chances were that it had been ignored for a long time. From how old the paper looked, it was likely untouched for at least a year now. I have a bad feeling about this. If it's a job no one wanted to do, then it's probably not something I'd like to try either. From what I had been, the difficulty level here in Brunnera was close to that of future Bylania. However, just as Giorno had said before, I had seen almost no one dressed like a mage around here. The fact that this job had been left open for so long meant that either it was exceedingly difficult or exceedingly not worth it. Now let's see here. Job description. Tutor of the Arcane Arts for Bright Fulbright, eldest son of House Fulbright. Requirements. 1. The candidate must be an adventurer of rank A or greater. 2. The candidate must be male. 3. The candidate must not be homosexual. Reward. Payment upon successful term completion. Remarks. The candidate will be interviewed to gauge his eligibility by June Fulbright, eldest daughter of House Fulbright. Chapter 146, The Fulbright Household. Having seen the details of this request, no matter how I thought about it, I'd be in for some sort of trouble. I turned around to Giorno, probably with a troubled look on my face. Couldn't really tell myself. He only smiled and gave me a thumbs up. It wasn't the case that there were no mages available to take the job, but it was very much possible that none of them fit the criteria. Though I might be a good fit, I still couldn't shake off the doubts I had in my head. Pochi shouldn't have gone too far from the guild. I went out to search for her, and saw that she was having her fur stroked by a boy. That's good. Head to neck. Neck to torso. Oh, now in a circle on my cheeks. That's right. You're getting good at this. Yes. What in the blazes is she doing? The dark-haired boy stroked Pochi's cheek, as if he was massaging it. By the time he moved his hands back to her head again, I called out to the latter. Sorry for the wait. Ah, master. Did you find us any work? Pochi said, sounding like she was having a good time getting her cheeks stretched. I did get something, but looks like it's been left untouched for a long time, so. I think every job is at least worth trying, sir. What are its details? Pretty unusual, this one. Apparently the Fulbright household is looking for a magic instructor for their eldest son. The paper's been untouched for a long time though, so the deal feels kinda sketchy. NGH attention. Why did you stop? Next from back to tail. Ah yes. Pochi, noticing that the black-haired boy had stopped, pressed him to continue on. Oh, this boy. I felt like I had met him before. Or was it my imagination? How much does it pay, sir? Says here that it pays upon successful term completion. No specific numbers. Not really the best choice for us, since our savings will probably last us just around a week. In that case, we can dash. Attention. You've stopped again. Yes. Good God, the doggo never fails to annoy. Huh. This boy is actually quite the looker. Seems like he could be somewhat of a big deal. Also, he seemed to only be in his early teens. Yet he was out here, all alone without a guardian in sight? I know this was right in front of the Adventurers Guild, but it still felt dangerous. Why don't we accept it and see how that works out then? We can never know for sure until we meet our clients. Maybe it pays in fixed intervals. Yeah, I guess. Then we can dash. Now behind my ears. Yes. Hey, enough of your nonsense. The boy's been trying to say something for a while now. Oh really? Pochi slurred like a drunk, eyes closed while indulging in her ear massage, and then got her voice drowned out by a loud shout from behind us. Young master. I knew it wasn't directed at us, but considering the direction and distance, I could infer that it was calling someone right next to us. So I turned to see who it was. And then another shout came from behind us, not where we were now looking. A well-projected boy tenor. Sir Head Butler. Inferring from the exchange that they were a servant and master pair, Pochi and I turned to each other. Open your eyes already, damn it. The boy separated from Pochi and ran up to the elderly man with swept-back silver hair. So my guess was right. This black-haired boy actually was some sort of a big deal. The man bent his back halfway down to listen to what the boy was saying, then once he was done, glanced at us. Quite a scornful stare, like he was looking at garbage on the wayside. Really, what's that look for? Now he took his handkerchief and put it over his mouth as he approached us, then stopped at just the right distance, and not an inch closer, for us to hear each other. He was about as tall as Blazer. His forehead was conspicuously wrinkled, and his thick brows were all white. His neatly trimmed facial hair stuck out the edges of his handkerchief. His eyes made no effort to hide his hostility, and his groan carried a sense of intimidation. Observing all that, it was natural for Pochi and me to realize that this old man didn't take kindly to adventurers. His appearance, especially the high-quality suit he wore, suggested an association with aristocrats. I wouldn't have known what his dress was called, if not for Melchi telling me what it was. Well, the old man's jacket had a longer back portion than what I was used to, but I was sure that I got it right. The boy had a similar getup, now that I paid attention to his. A suit, topped with a lightweight cloak, a nobleman's appearance through and through. Your timing couldn't have been any worse, adventurer. Whatever are you referring to, sir? I feel like I'm starting to understand his situation now, despite how confusing it seemed at first. Could it be that these two follow us? That was the best rub I've ever had. Pochi's gonna be Pochi. Indulgence over logic goes to show how much of a beast she is. Still a cowardly dog, though, what with her staying behind me and nudging me forward by the back of my knees. Although I had no reason to refuse him, the elderly man's attitude still exuded a resisting force. Then again, there was the boy, smiling as he looked at us. There was some sort of charm in his eyes that made him hard to refuse. Good God, I sure hope this doesn't get us in yet another trouble. Wow, it's huge. Indeed it is, sir. Pochi and I said in agreement as we looked up at the mansion in front of us. This residence, located to the southeast of Brunnera, had a sturdy-looking main gate, beyond the bars of which was a well-maintained lawn. It's incredible. This lawn alone covered even more space than the entirety of the Pochesley agency. What is this place, sir? The old man didn't seem to have any intention of answering me. The black-haired boy, too, hadn't spoken for a while now, only smiling as we walked along. Though innocent and devoid of deceit this smile may be, I had a feeling that I'd seen it from somewhere else. It was a solid 3-minute walk from the main gate to get past the lawn, after which we were led into the mansion itself. The spacious entrance hall welcomed us. Behind us to the right-hand side was a staircase leading to the second floor. I would assume that the residents' quarters were up there. I'd seen a separate building behind this mansion, too. Could that be the servants' quarters? Following the old man on his way, I took a step forward. At one point, the old man held a cane out to his side. Don't even know where he got that from, to block Pochi's progress. The gesture stopped me in my tracks, but not the intended target. Pochi kept walking as if there was no cane in front of her. Come on, doggo, you ought to know your manners. Stop. The dog. Halt. With him voicing the order explicitly, Pochi finally got the signal and stopped all movement. And what an impressive stop that was. It was as if she was frozen in time altogether. If she wasn't still blinking, I would have mistaken her for a stuffed animal. This is as far as the dog goes. The young man may proceed. I'll go up to call my sister, Sir Head Butler. That would be helpful. Apologies for the inconvenience, young master. The old man, in a completely different attitude from when he was dealing with me, replied to the boy and bowed deeply. Once the boy was out of sight up on the second floor, he raised his head and gave me the usual hard look. Proceed. I let out a little puff of breath before following the old man to the room right next to the stairs. He opened the door, then prompted me with his eyes to enter. I did as told, appearing into a simply furnished space that did not at all fit the description of a reception room. The old man silently closed the door, and then let out a little throat-clearing cough. I'll assume that he was telling me to be seated, so I sat down on the old-looking yet flawless sofa right in front of me, with the old man sitting opposite to me across the table. This room, lit only by the sunlight through the windows, gave off somewhat of a strange impression. Considering the size of the room, at least from what I could see, It was far too small to be at a corner of the mansion. I hadn't seen any other room on my way into the building itself. Could it be that there was some space left unused in between the walls? Then, while I looked around, the old man spoke to me. "What is your name?" "I am called Poer." Despite really not wanting to, Pochi and I had agreed to keep using our aliases. Giorno and Lilia could still be in town, so using our real names might result in inconveniences down the line. Right as I finished saying my name, I felt a sharp stare coming from somewhere. Like from inside the wall? Oh, I see. So that suspiciously missing space was a secret room, from which someone was looking at me right now. In retrospect, I should have realized that things could have gone in this direction, considering the boy's appearance and the fact that he had a sister. She's no ordinary person, that's for sure. Her power was so great that I could tell from across the wall. Which reminds me, Lilia did tell me of this beforehand. Let us ask to be sure. Are you in search of work? That the first daughter of House Fulbright was quite impressive. Chapter 147. The request from House Fulbright. I guess I could say that I'd seen this coming, but, well, this is without a doubt the Fulbright household. The to-be-fallen ancestral clan of Warren the Black Emperor and Jennifer the Bone Fist. I hadn't expected them to date this far back, let alone being so distinguished. This would mean that the black-haired boy was Bright Fulbright, and the piercing gaze that I've been feeling through the wall. Probably June Fulbright. Yes, sir. I was hoping to be paid on a fixed interval, based on the job description I've read. Should I have not said that? The old man just looked surprised for a second there, before going back to his boorish expression and glaring at me. What, is he looking down on my financial status or something? Well, I'd said it, can't be undone now. We of House Fulbright have been looking to recruit a capable mage. Second question, what is your name? I am called Poer, sir. Noted. Next question, are you a mage? Why'd the old man ask my name again anyway? It may seem unnecessary to ask, but your body seems more fit for a warrior, despite your gaudy attire. I am a mage, yes. However, I stick to the idea of using anything I have access to in battle, sir. True, that body of yours seems quite useful. Now that reminds me, the distinction of mages and warriors have existed in this era too. I'll remember to investigate the deal with that in this era sometime later. However, I am not convinced that you are fully qualified for the job. His words, with hits of an exasperated sigh, were full of irritation-inducing intent. But what actually had been an irritation to me was that I felt it wasn't on purpose. Still, that didn't rule out the possibility that this, too, was part of the selection process. In any case, after being told that, I stayed silent and stared at the old man. The act seemed annoying enough for him to click his tongue. I'd prefer him not do that right in my face. Now then, time for me to ask my questions. So, the job description was that I would be the instructor of arcane arts for Master Bright. What is the level of proficiency that he requires, sir? Your acceptance has not yet been decided, young man. The old man replied without a moment's delay. That made my brows twitch. I haven't said anything about taking the job yet either. All right, fine. Let's do this in a different way then. Now then, I'd like to be interviewed by the real deal if you please. I turned to the wall and spoke up, prompting the old man to raise an eyebrow. The intense stare I'd been feeling now weakened, and gradually faded away. My guess was that one would need the perceptiveness of an A-ranked adventurer to notice the stare. But I wouldn't expect that to be part of the selection too. The old man heaved a deep sigh, and then quickly returned to his dignified look. Probably because his employers were already here. I felt two presences on the other side of the door. Bright, and the one who'd been staring at me. The door opened, revealing the black-haired boy and a young woman. Lady June, young master. Was he to your liking? June nodded lightly in response to the old man's subdued remark. Her eyes, locked onto mine right as I stood up, were pure and in a dark shade of gray. Alfred, you have done well. We will take over from here. Certainly, milady. Alfred. That's his name, huh? Oddly fitting. He bowed, went to the door and opened it, walked out, then bowed again before closing it. And so, that lady is June, the one who had surprised Lilia with her power. She had black hair and tan skin, wore a silver earring on her right ear, and had particularly glossy lips. The armor she had equipped looked quite hefty, and was adorned with beautiful golden carvings. Definitely equipped fittingly, for such a socially distinguished person. Seeing that she carried a straight sword, I would assume that she was a warrior. Bright be seated in the back. Yes, sister. In contrast to his sister, the skin of young Bright was pale. And now that I thought about it, the feeling that I'd seen him before might have come from his resemblance to Warren. Only in some respects. The major difference was that the guy I knew would always have his trademark grin, while young Bright here had none of that creepiness. Makes me wonder, would the boy grow up to be like that someday? June took a seat, and then signaled me to do so as well. Excuse me. She stared at me all the while I did so. Oh, I see. She's trying to help set her brother on track. I still think specifically excluding homosexual men was too much though. Let us first apologize for our impoliteness, and what we put you through. Please think nothing of it. I realize that I may have overstepped my bounds too. Your honesty is appreciated. I am June Fulbright. She held out her hand, revealing countless calluses, presumably from holding her sword. They served as the proof that she'd had extensive battle experience. Poor. We shook hands and sat back down. June then turned to Bright. This is Bright, my younger brother. Truth be told, Alfred was sent to the guild earlier today to cancel the request. I'd never expected you to appear at the very last minute. Cancel? Could it be that you've already found a suitable tutor? No. An incident has come up, forcing me to be away from this mansion. I must depart for the east within tomorrow. While she's gone, only I, Alfred, and a handful of servants will be left to occupy this place. Since June was the only one leaving, it made sense how she would be even more worried about her brother. June put her hand on Bright's head and continued. Now, to get into the job's details. During my absence, I would like you to instruct him in the arcane arts, and also act as his bodyguard. I can certainly do both, but didn't the description on the paper call only for the former role? My business is urgent, you understand. I'd planned to take Bright along, but since a trustworthy candidate has appeared at my door, there is no longer a need to force him away from his tracks. Trustworthy how? Not knowing how I'd built such a reputation in the short time I'd been in this era, I was visibly confused. Understanding that reaction of mine, June added, Sir Giorno has endorsed you. That alone is enough. Giorno? He did? A man of many secrets, but not evil. That was what he said. So, despite saying that he would be returning to Tude soon, he had gone through the trouble to come here and recommend this job to me. Not that I'd believed him to go all the way back here in the first place. But in any case, I guess he'd seen through our act. Don't you think that's not enough? Trusting me based on the opinion of just one man. You see, we of House Fulbright are distinguished by our prowess in martial arts. My current social status, too, has been achieved largely by my military capabilities. That has made me confident in my discerning eyes. Trust is something one can earn in the process. It is not necessarily an absolute factor. She seemed quite confident in herself, and in a different way from Tarawo's. Seeing me scratch my cheek in reluctance, June smirked in one edge of her mouth and added, and the new description still stands. You will not only be teaching my brother, but also provide him with protection. Therefore, in addition to the payment upon successful term completion, you will be receiving an amount of guaranteed compensation. Guaranteed how? I didn't mean to pry, Sir Poer, but I'd heard that you were having livelihood difficulties. I thought it would be reasonable to provide you with some assistance. I see. Food and lodging, I assume? I've got a glutton champion with me, so getting rid of most of our expenses would be a big help indeed. There's still the demerit of being tied down to this one location and profession, though. I reckon I will be done in 1 month. Afterward, you will most likely have less to deal with in way of bodyguard duties. As for your compensation, let us agree to settle on an amount based on Bright's capabilities upon my return. We guarantee a minimum of 100,000. What do you say? The more I hear about it, the better the deal gets. Now what to do? I crossed my arms and agonized over my choices. And then a certain familiar voice rang up in my head. Let's do it, master. Whoa. What the hell, Pochi? What do you mean what? It's a telepathic call. I could barely hear you from here, so. Telepathic call. But how dash? My arcane energy pull has increased quite a lot after all those levels. Of course I can do this now. Oh right. So thanks to her MP growth, her magic and magecraft capabilities have been expanded as well. Alright. Let's give it a try. For now I'll see how it goes for a month. What? Bright looked slightly confused at what I'd been doing, but kept himself quiet. So, I'll do it. To the best of my capabilities. June and I shook hands just as we'd done at the start of the conversation, but this time more firmly. Bright put his little hands on top of ours, his eyes sparkling. His bright personality helped our expressions lighten up somewhat too. So holding magic classes in the distant past, let's give it all I've got. Chapter 148, Let's Get Learning, Teacher Power. After the handshake, I was told by June that she would lead me to Bright's room on the second floor. We promptly left the room. Naturally, Pochi was waiting for us at the entrance hall. Her eyes sparkled, thinking how she might finally be released from her restriction. But the rest of us headed up the stairs without a word. Her reaction was the best thing I'd seen so far today. That is your familiar, I presume? What is her name? She is called Shiro. Shiro for white? Despite the majority of her fur being black? What an interesting choice. Yes, the doggo had chosen that of her own accord. June's remark was followed with dry laughter. I'd assumed that she didn't mean it much more than an extension of our greeting. The second floor's back corridor had 6 rooms, divided equally between the 2 sides. June and Bright stopped at the second pair of doors. Bright's room is the second one to our left. The third room to our right is mine. Since you'll be guarding Bright, I've arranged for you to occupy the first room to the left. The 2 rooms are connected with a door on the inside, so your job ought to be somewhat easier. No objections, I presume? Though I nodded in agreement, I did have something I must ask. Excuse me. What is it? Would it be possible to let Shiro into the room as well? June stopped dead on her tracks. The look, are you insane? On her face suggested that she was about to ask me that. It looks like the bad feeling I've been having was right after all. This being the aristocrat's house, I suppose it was only natural that they not let some random adventurer's familiar walk around the place. As far as I'm concerned, though, Pochi's nose and ears would be a great help to my job. Not to mention I'd like to avoid losing my pillow if possible. My face was probably laying out all my thoughts to June. What with how she's not saying anything. An awkward silence lingered for a while, until I had some unexpected rescue. Sister, I'd like to make that request for him as well. I'd like to request that too, milady. Which were the words from young Bright, and an echoing shout from downstairs. Bah! I'll need to put the latter in her place later. Needless to say, the former's request was more than enough. June's expression lightened, stooped down and patted Bright on his head. Oh, if you insist, Bright, of course she can. Seeing how abruptly and prominently June could break out of her slackless countenance, her eccentricity was established in my book from this point on. I mean, Bright's eyes did give off the adorableness appropriate for his age, but Mana and Reed wouldn't react toward Lena as strongly as June had toward her brother, for instance. Wait, this boy, could he be? Alley-oop. My familiar made her entrance through the room's window with a totally unnecessary shout. In the end, June had informed me that beasts weren't allowed to walk around in the mansion itself, and that she would permit Pochi's entrance to only my room through the garden-facing window. So yeah, the window is pretty much the only part of this mansion she'll be going through. As far as this era's aristocrats were concerned, it was an exceedingly generous compromise for us to reach. Hey, remember not to shout in the mansion. Oh, you heard that, sir? What in the blazes even made her think I wouldn't hear that? Now she's winking and sticking out her tongue, trying to look cute. Oh, what I wouldn't give to pull it right out. So the classes begin tomorrow, sir? Yeah, but the bodyguard duty starts right away. So let me know if you detect any suspicious smell or sound. Still, bodyguard, does the Fulbright household have that many enemies, sir? Maybe. Sir Alfred will be telling me about that later. Master, check this out. It's a king-size bed. Where'd her interest in the Fulbright's enemies go? Well anyway, so fluffy. Ack. Orea. Oog dash. Cece can't breathe dash. You can't just hog the bed to yourself, damn it. Your master is still right here, for God's sake. Ahahaha. The bed is mine now. I'm king. Behave yourself, damn it. Tickle to clutical dash. NGH ahaha. Ga tickle to clutical dash. Ahahaha. 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 Are you available, young man? Pochi and I froze over upon hearing that grumpy, gentlemanly voice. Unbeknownst to us, Alfred had opened the door, folded his arms behind him, and stood to wait for us right there. I got down from the bed, while Pochi slipped under its frame. Looks like she's having a hard time dealing with this old man. Not that I wouldn't want to hide too. Ha ha ha. Yes, of course, sir. You are now considered one among the manservants of House Fulbright. However, there are reasons for our master's order, and insistence on you occupying this room. Did I make myself clear, Sir Poer? I nodded. Alfred continued with a soured look. Very good. While the young man provides his services to House Fulbright, both of you will conduct yourselves with dignity. Are you able to cover the whole estate with arcane energy? It can be done, but considering the area, not constantly dash. Then do it whenever necessary, such as when you must operate away from the young master, or while upholding personal hygiene routine. Now what about when you sleep? I'll have Shiro dash. Can she be trusted? I thought we've already gone over this dash. Listen. As a noble household, the Fulbright has relatively few enemies, and that is courtesy of our master's painstaking past and ongoing endeavors. However, that does not mean we are allowed to be negligent. I understand that an uneducated man such as you may not be aware, but there exist factions among the households that serve the Holy Emperor. Houses Fulbright and Adams are among the traditionalists, and opposing them are the reformists. The latter has seen increased activity ever since the beginning of the Devil King's fetal stage. A number of the traditionalists have suffered damage as a result. You must be cautious at all times. I see. So even before the Devil King fully comes into the picture, humanity has been stuck in a power struggle among themselves too. Oh, and now I finally remember. This point in time was the era in which the Holy Emperor reigned. The years must still be within the sacred calendar, which would end a decade or so before my birth. If I remember correctly, the change was due to the Holy Emperor's illness and the successor's death by natural causes. Right. Perhaps this feud between the two factions was one of its causes. Meals are served at 8 in the morning, noon, and 8 in the afternoon. All will be delivered to this room after the young master has finished his meal. You and the dog will partake in turns. Arcane arts lessons for the young master will be held in 2 periods. In the morning from 8:50 to 11:30, and in the afternoon from 12:50 to 6, during which assistance will be provided in the form of an attendant. So if I need anything, I can ask her dash, not you. The attendant is for the young master. Of course dash. Carry out your training sessions in the backyard. Do not neglect your bodyguard duties. Understood dash. Then I will excuse myself now. I can't deal with people like him, sir. What a coincidence. I was thinking the same thing. 5 o'clock in the morning, 15th day of the 5th month, 120th year of the sacred calendar. Since June was leaving early in the morning, I went out to the garden along with young Bright, Alfred, and several other attendants to see her off. Pochi was staying in bed out of spite, whining about how the dinner last night was nowhere near enough. Alfred, I leave the house in your care. Yes, milady. May your journey be safe. And Sir Poer, look after my brother. He's in good hands. Best wishes on your mission, milady. June nodded. Young Bright stepped forward, his shoulders trembling. Sister, please take good care of yourself. No need to worry, brother. It's only 1 month. You take Sir Poer's lessons seriously, understood? Yes. Well then, I'll be off now. Although June had no difficulty walking away, I'm sure that she would be missing her brother dearly as well. Because after all, her shoulders were trembling harder than Bright's were. I had thought that June would be leaving on a carriage, but someone as powerful as her wouldn't need it. Huh. I suppose she'll have to get on one if it was a summon from the nation, Or something of the sort, though. We looked on until June's silhouette was completely out of sight, at which point I returned to my room. No. For some unknown reason, I'm feeling a pull on the edge of my mantle. It would be a waste of a good morning if we don't get started with the lessons immediately, Sir Poer. I'm ready. Oh, just look at how his eyes are glittering with expectation and admiration toward the arcane arts. Completely sympathizing with his feelings, I force myself to work overtime right on the first day. Chapter 149 Young Bright. Left with no other option, I took a vial of Pachibitan D from my chest pocket and chugged it down, eliminating any lingering fatigue from yesterday. And in front of me, young Bright was looking quite delighted as he went to sit in the table that had been prepared just for him. An old maid followed right behind him. I had expected her to be a young lady at first, but now that I considered how much the master of the house cared for her brother, this did make more sense. It was only natural for her not to let some random girl approach the boy. Once young Bright was in place, the old maid, named Jetta, stationed herself where she could see him at all times. Judging from her appearance and aura, she had probably been serving the Fulbright for a long time now. June wouldn't have put her in charge otherwise, after all. While I scratched the back of my head, I detected several presences approaching from behind me. One of them should be Alfred. I turned around and sure enough, the man's sour expression was right there. Two other butlers were behind him, one carrying a set of papers and pen, and the other holding 3 books. Magic textbooks and writing materials for the lessons, I assume. They'll come in handy. The 3 put down the items, bowed, then left without saying a word. After seeing them off, Bright stood right up, unable to contain his excitement. I am ready, Instructor Poer. He's got his priorities straight as an arrow. Makes me think of a boy version of Natsu. I had felt quite excited to be able to use magic for the first time, of course, but had never expected the reaction to be this much stronger when coming from a child. Picking up the textbook labeled Introductory, I scanned through it to get an idea of what the entry-level magic spells of this era were. All right, the theories weren't so different from what's taught in my time, but the explanations here might come off as too rudimentary. I suppose that does count as progress, if only a little bit. Let us start with this question, Master Bright. In your own image, what is an ideal mage? An overwhelming presence that can instantly turn the tides of a battle. Something like that. This boy's got big dreams. He was right in that mages were a really big deal in the era though, especially considering how few there were. So much so that I hadn't seen any at the Adventurers Guild in this town. Makes me wonder if the elves were filling in that void. I had seen a few back at Sodom at least. But most importantly, I would like to be a mage who is useful to my sister. Young Bright clenched his fists and pumped them up, showing his enthusiasm. I sure look forward to seeing the sort of mage he would become. Instructor Poer, what is this? This is the fixed position type spell circle of magic shift. While you stand on this circle, you will be able to draw from my arcane energy pool. Oh, considering Bright young age, and the fact that he was still level 1, it would be quite a challenge for him to successfully invoke magic. Since he wasn't allowed to leave town, it wasn't feasible to try and raise his level either. Having gone through numerous ideas, I had decided on the final solution, magic shift. Though it leaned toward being a brute force method. With this, Bright would be able to cast spells with his small arcane energy stock, and also draw more power from his title's positive effects. Once he learns to use more and more spells, he would eventually not need the magic shift anymore, at which point I could just supply him with arcane energy via the giving magic spell to keep the lessons going. Still, I reckon other mages would have gone with an even more brute force method. With the way I'm going, he'll end up gathering a great deal of knowledge without his level budging one bit. There might be some titles that could be gained through amassing one's knowledge, but I wouldn't know about those. Once June comes back, I'd like to ask her for permission to teach Bright how to fight. But it's a coin flip whether or not she would let me. Now let's review. Can you list the 4 core elements? Yes. Fire, water, earth, and wind. Very good. Now, do you remember the names of the elementary level combat spells that I have taught you so far? Yes. Little fire, water drop, straw, stone, and breeze. What is the shape of the magic formulas? Hey, food's ready. W dash. T. They take the shape of a pentagram. What are the essential magic formulas for those 4 spells? Materialization, movement, and invocation. All right, heads up. Time for target practice. Start with little fire. Yes, but at what? 3, 2, 1 dash. Where's the food, sir? There's your mark. Rise, rise. Little fire. Pochi promptly cut Bright's little fire spell in half, from bottom to top. What was that for, you stupid master? But more importantly, where's the food, sir? Where? Greed over anger, I see. Good ol' hilarious Pochi, and her unpredictable actions. She's sniffing around for food that just flat out doesn't exist. And now she's narrowing her eyes down. Huh, did she actually find something? Ooh, isn't this black tea? The tea leaves are high quality too. Pochi pushed up her air glasses, and then put her front paws on the table. Oh, now I know, master. Since there's tea here, cake is coming up next, am I right? Faking a brilliant smile won't get you anything here, doggo. Oops, no time to deal with her now. Gotta focus on young Bright. That was the first spell he had ever invoked successfully. I turned around, and saw young Bright staring at his own hands. He closed his palms, opened them, then closed them again. After repeating a few times, he proceeded to raise the edges of his mouth. That moment, a horrific chill ran through me. Oh my God! His smile is starting to resemble that of the other Black Emperor I know. No, it was almost exactly the same. I mean, this boy would go on to be his ancestor, so I suppose it would be unreasonable to expect otherwise. But it didn't have to be that similar. It was good and all that he soon returned to his usual innocent expression. But this boy definitely had the makings of his title. He cared for his sister wholeheartedly, that was for sure. But it was now apparent that he had a lot of hidden layers. Alright, next spell. Use this tea to cast water drop. Won't we need a target? It doesn't seem like Shiro is willing to cooperate anymore too. Look, Shiro, we'll have some cake ready for you later. I am not that cheap, Sir Dash. Jetta, please direct her to the hall once it is ready. Oh yes, please do, miss. Young Bright was an exceptionally fast learner. He was already well adjusted to dealing with Pochi's shenanigans, and had nailed down the basic attack spells of the 4 core elements from the early morning's lesson alone. Finishing breakfast before me, he proceeded to flip through the introductory magic textbook, all the way from beginning to end. The arcane arts itself just had that much of an impact on him. Then, during the morning period, he learned the bolt spell, a wind spell with a special application, which was to say, he had done it of his own accord. By my lunchtime, Bright has gotten down the basic spells of the elementary level, and then proceeded to finish reading the introductory magic textbook. He retained all the information, so well that he could recite every sentence and word without a single mistake. All in all, his comprehension skills were as good as Lena's, memorization as good as Tifa's, and situational application as good as Lala's. Yeah, he may very well be a called genius. Then came the afternoon lessons, the longest period of the day. We finally got started with recovery magic. Recovery magic didn't necessarily have spells that would be considered basic, however. So for now, I taught him the elementary level cure and recover. But then something different happened with young Bright. Despite him being able to perform elementary level spells so easily, he was taking quite a bit more time to get the recovery magic down. Although he had no issue learning the formulas and gathering the needed arcane energy onto his hands, he felt a repelling force that made it difficult for him to invoke the spells successfully. Among mages, the phenomenon was called a spiritual mismatch. He would need some time to get the hang of it, after which it would be nothing to worry about. It used to happen to me too. I had learned to deal with it from the few recovery magic lessons I'd had with Billy back at the Magic University. After all that was done, I had Bright spend the rest of the afternoon period preparing for tomorrow. The arcane arts were deep and came in a vast variety. Each time we go from the elementary to intermediate to advanced levels, the difficulty and variety would increase exponentially. Now then, let's see how young Bright's statistics are holding up. Name. Bright titles. Little brother, pupil, apprentice mage, the investigator, the charismatic, the Black Emperor young. Genius, biased LV, 1 HP, 88 MP, 199 EXP, 6 special skills. Yep. He's definitely got the makings of the other Black Emperor I knew. And a genius, huh? I'd never met anyone with that title before. He definitely had the makings for it too, from what I'd seen today. Perhaps it was thanks to this title that he already had that much HP and MP despite being level 1. Looks like I might have come across another one of those people that would go on to make a mark in history. Chapter 150. Nothing but a brigade of mages. 8 o'clock in the morning, first day of the 6th month, 94th year of the War Demon calendar. What is this? At the training ground of the Royal Capital Magic Guardians, Jean the Lightning Flash found herself kneeling under a colossal shadow. In fact, the figure before her towered over 1/8 of the whole hall. Another man, of considerably smaller size, clacked on the cobblestone pavement as he walked up to the podium before the dumbfounded soldiers. He was Gaston, the Great Mage of Flame. Though he was the leader of the Mage Brigade here, neither the petrified troops nor his devoted Brigadier Viola had their attention on him now. Was it too cramped in there, sir? Once Gaston started speaking, all eyes turned to him. Yeah. And then back to the Colossus again. Gaston's words toward him had been out of utmost respect. The answer he got, however, was nothing but a half-hearted reply from the gigantic figure. The one in question was Tus the High-Order Muscle. Having departed from the Far East Wasteland, he had traveled a great distance to arrive here, at the royal capital of Regalia. Bah! Never thought he'd actually pull it off in 1 week. Really shouldn't have challenged him in the first place. Gaston stood beside Tus, who towered over him despite sitting down cross-legged. In comparison, Gaston was a single being next to him. The soldiers were greatly intimidated by the view that they swallowed lumps down their throats in unison. For the love of God, you should have told me you were coming here. One woman called out to Tus with a taut voice as she emerged from one of the spectator seats. That was a voice they knew very well. All troops present were fast to react to her. One among them blurted out her name. Miss Irene. The soldiers awaited her orders. Irene lightly raised her hand as a sign for them to stand up and hold formation. Here comes the old hag. Shut your trap, musclehead philosopher. If Gaston never reminded me, I would have missed this meeting altogether. It's a whole lot say pain coming all the way here, you know. Really now? Irene was visibly doubtful of that claim. It was unthinkable that a man like him, so powerful that he was considered a philosopher, would have difficulties with the simple act of traveling to a city. As a matter of fact, the act of movement itself was simple. However, Tus had his set of circumstances to consider. One in particular was the fact that the Grey resided within the royal capital. Things would surely escalate to exceptional proportions if his arrival was known. As such, him getting here involved the gargantuan challenge of not being noticed by the Grey, the one he had known for a longer time as Gaspard. Therefore, Tus had taught Gaston to use the storeroom, which he himself had learned from Asley beforehand, so that the latter could transfer him all the way here, just like how Asley had done for Melchi. He also had to suppress the enormous amounts of arcane energy within his body, slightly modifying the arcane energy circulation optimizer, which Irene and Asley usually had activated on their bodies, and then applying the teleportation spell's formula. He had made it so that his excess power was sent to the Far East Wasteland instead. That had allowed Tus to enter the royal capital of Regalia without being sensed by Gaspard. But of course, just because Gaspard wasn't aware of him being here, didn't mean the same would be true for a certain wild acquaintance of his. Suddenly, one woman among the rearmost row of soldiers fell down on her rear. The man in the next row turned to glare at her. Although Tus was what needed their utmost attention, any disruption of discipline was an embarrassment to the Royal Capital Magic Guardian's name. But then the man realized what the woman saw up in the sky, the cause of distress for trained soldiers such as them. The man, upon looking up, fell down just like the woman had. Then the rest of the soldiers fell, one row after another, up to the ones right in front of Tus, Irene, Gaston and Viola. Tus looked up and saw a black dot in the sky above him. Its movement stopped, but not the release of its overwhelming arcane energy, pressuring Gaston, Irene, and Viola to his side. Well, if it ain't the purple bird. What he saw up there, which scratching his head, was none other than the Swordsmanship, which had inflicted a great deal of pain to Asley and his party recently. It was practically impossible for the Swordsmanship to not notice the approach of one as powerful as Tus. What with the Regalia region being its turf, it had considered that if the big man was harmed, the danger might extend to it as well. An acquaintance of yours, sir? Meh. Just had a petty fight or three back in the day. A petty fight with a heavenly beast, huh? I didn't know you had a knack for unfunny jokes. Although Gaston and Irene put up a calm front, they were feeling the full brunt of the Swordsmanship's pressure. They realized that if it wanted to, it could kill everyone currently present here, including them. Fuyu, who had been watching from a corner of the hall, shuddered as she held on to her staff. All the people present here were trembling with fear toward what they could only see as a little black spot in the sky. But since the heavenly beast was here now, Tus had no reason to hide from it. Tus, wanting Swordsmanship to leave the current location as soon as possible, initiated a telepathic call with it. Hey, long time no see. I knew you were up to something again. Ain't got no time for argin now, bird. Just go home. And that you have been seeing more people lately. Heh, strange, ain't it? Looks like I'ma be seeing more and more from now too. What do you mean? I'ma explain that later. Just go. You're gonna attract the enemy's attention. Very well. I shall wait at the usual ravine. Gotcha. Tus, eyes closed while communicating telepathically, loosened his lips slightly, apparently feeling nostalgic. Once that was over, the Swordsmanship flew back toward the north. A heavenly beast was right in front of them. As brief as that was, it was enough time for all the soldiers to turn pale, realizing now how profusely they were sweating and how cold they were feeling. Gaston, who had regained his bearings sooner than all the others, coughed to clear his throat. That providing the soldiers with the push they needed, they promptly stood up and got back in formation. Gaston held out his hand to Tus and proceeded to say, "This is Master Tus, philosopher of the Far East. He is a man of great power and knowledge. Always a smooth talker, old man. So, I've heard that no one has been able to complete the training menu, not even Viola." Viola cast her eyes down upon being reminded so, but no one would blame her. All of the soldiers had considered the training Asley had gone through to be impossible. They had a great deal of doubt toward Gaston's decision to introduce this program to them. They wondered why they, not being warriors, would need to train their bodies so intensively. That was why no one felt ashamed upon hearing the announcement. But then Irene, feeling annoyed at the soldiers' reaction, stepped forward. "Weak. Listen, you all won't get anywhere with that attitude." The soldiers' faces froze over. They had always prided themselves in their power, but now they were being declared weak. Though the one to tell them so was the powerful Irene of the 6 archmages, they would still need time to digest that fact down. "You're one to talk. Just shut up and let me finish." Irene turned to glare at Tus briefly for that remark of his, and then back at the soldiers. "All you should need for this list is 10 hours. And for the record, Gaston and I have cleared it. Do you understand? It's the weakness of will. That's what sets you apart from us, not knowledge about magic and energy. And you, old man, you've been pampering your troops way too much, I say." After screaming and howling all she wanted out of her system, Irene turned away and groaned violently out of her nose. The soldiers did nothing to hide their surprise, and the doubt they now had in their abilities, assuming what Irene had said was all true. She had pointed out that they were weak-willed, but they had confidence. They were convinced that they would never lose to some random adventurer. None of them understood what they had just been told. Tus heaved a sigh, then Irene did the same. Gaston stepped forward. "Your daily training has been sufficient. However, it is only your choice to end it there. There will always be a greater power to be attained by going further beyond. Consider that." Well, not that they'd understand even when it's spelled right at their faces. Which is why you've called over this trash philosopher, right? Damn old hag. I'm plenty clean. Thank you very much. Mark my words, people. Those who don't keep up will be left behind. Steel yourselves for what's to come. Gaston's croaky voice echoed through the training ground. Seeing how the soldiers were slow to comprehend their situation, Tous heaved another deep sigh. Gah, how many of them are there anyway? That little shit, forcing this kind of work on me. When he's back, I'ma whoop his four eyes ass. Nah, that's gonna be a drag too. Ignoring Irene at his feet as she kept screaming at him, Tous let out a long loud yawn. Chapter 151, Mantle Wrapper. 11 o'clock in the morning, first day of the 6th month, 120th year of the sacred calendar. And as a result, opposing element combinations of fire and water, and earth and wind, cannot be contained within the same magic formula. However, there are exceptions to the rule. Do you know what that is? If they cannot be contained within the same formula, then perhaps one could construct a larger magic formula to contain both their formulas instead, giving enough time for the invocation to complete before the repelling effect takes place. I think. This boy sure is a fast learner. In only half a month, he had already learned a great majority of the elementary level spells. Let us give it a try then. Here we go. I started drawing a spell circle for Bright to see. It was for Cross Wind, an intermediate level wind spell. Can you tell what this formula is? A wind spell, intermediate, no advanced level? Considering the information volume, it should be advanced, but since the main formula is simple, it could be an intermediate level, after all? Correct. Adding arcane energy into this circle will invoke the intermediate level wind spell Cross Wind. It will then be quickly followed by the intermediate level fire spell Fire Wall. Once I told him so, Bright's expression instantly tensed up. So, he'd realized quickly how dangerous it could be. As I'd expected of him, this involves connecting one complete magic formula with another. One wrong move could discharge it spontaneously. While Bright proceeded to lay out his hypothesis with a slightly shaky voice, I nodded in agreement. Correct. That is why magic requires a great deal of practice. I will be teaching you the dos and don'ts of it soon, so that you may attempt it with elementary level spells. Yes, Bright replied under his breath. I had a grin painted on my face while resuming the construction of my spell circle. Now look at this. What is it? This isn't the usual planar structure, but an overlap of several formulas. Could it be a three-dimensional composition? That is right. Connect the end of the spell's formula with the end of the Cross Wind's formula. Then inject arcane energy here. And the compound will discharge simultaneously. However, the moment they are connected, they will not discharge while you are injecting arcane energy. Once you put in enough arcane energy, concentrate a surge of energy in your hand and direct it in the opposite direction. The discharge will be reflected, completing the intended effect of the spell. Rise, Flame Tornado! I unleashed the human-sized spiral of fire onto the center of the backyard, filling Bright's eyes with its bitter orange luminescence. Though Jetta said nothing as she held her skirt down, the look in her eyes suggested that she was surprised as well. The magical swirl persisted for 10 or so seconds, dyeing the stone paving black before fading away with the wind. Wow! And, well, this is one of my originals. I will teach it to you once you have enough arcane energy to use it, Master Bright. Why yes. Oh, look at the time. Lunch should be served soon, so let us take a break. We'll be going over intermediate level recovery magic in the afternoon. Young Bright had a difficult reaction to what I had said. He was having a fair bit of difficulty learning recovery magic, after all. Though he didn't necessarily hate it, he did seem to want to put it off if possible. But anyone who had spent time with magic regularly should know that, even if one wanted to master only attack spells, they should at least learn recovery magic up to the intermediate level. As I recall, the Magic University of my era also recommended doing so. Although there were examples of those who prioritized attack magic and did well with it, like Hornell, I wouldn't recommend going that way. Speaking of Hornell, I'd never known beforehand that his Adams household already existed in this era. Could they be based right here in Brunnera, then? I was pretty sure that regalia had already been established during the sacred calendar. Though, Birigt. A voice echoed in the distance. It was apparent from its high pitch that it was of a child. At the same time, young Bright, who was enjoying his meal in front of me, dropped the spoon he was holding. The soup in it stained and darkened a part of the red carpet. Young Bright's expression turned pale. "I say something the matter, Master Bright? Run now." We need to run now, Instructor Power." "Come again." Bright sprang up from the table, hitting it with a clatter. Surprised by the sudden change of tone, I turned to look at Alfred, who was on standby at the door. He signaled me with his eyes. Do as I had been told. I don't know what is going on, but I suppose it'd be better to act now. I lifted young Bright up in one arm and charged out of the dining room, intending to head up to the second floor, on which Pochi was standing guard. And then, little fire. NGH dash. Whoa! A ball of heat hit my forehead, then burst with a little bang. I fell backward on my buttocks. Although the impact caused Bright to fall from my arm, he seemed to be safe. Just now was that magic? I quickly stood up, then let Bright hide behind me. Could it be an enemy invasion in broad daylight? Tracing the residual arcane energy in the direction it had been shot from, I saw a silhouette darkened by the sunlight behind them, standing with their hands on their hips. Is that a girl? Upon a close look, I saw that the silhouette seemed to be wearing a skirt. By the time I blurted my question out, young Bright had already wrapped himself completely in my mantle. It was almost as if he thought it would function as a curtain. Bright would fall down if I took a step. So instead, I put myself on guard and confronted the new arrival. The girly silhouette stepped forward, hands on her hips. Oh, walking like she's so high and mighty, I see. Is she an enemy? I wasn't feeling any hostility nor murderous intent, but young Bright was shaking vehemently, as I could feel through the vibration of my mantle. Oh, you are not Bright. Who might you be? I don't introduce myself to those who shoot me without warning. Although I had been welcomed by Toos with a large-scale spell, well, I had forgotten that ever happened. Up until now, that is. Answer me if you want to keep that miserable life of yours. Yup, that's a girl, trying to intimidate me with those threatening words. Magic spells of your level will never kill me, I'm afraid. What a talkative manservant you are. Alfred. Where are you, Alfred? She called out Alfred's name as if she was familiar with him. The man in question came up behind me and answered her. I am here. Lady Ferris. I want this man unemployed by the end of today. Oh, I'm actually starting to get the big picture. I think. Could she be an incredibly important figure? When she'd said keep my life, could she have meant it from a social reputation standpoint? Getting my source of income cut off suddenly would be a problem. Alfred seemed to have seen my troubled expression, but did not react to it. Instead, he bowed to the girl whom he had referred to as Ferris. We are terribly sorry, Lady Ferris. This man is employed as Master Bright's bodyguard. I hope you will forgive his slight rudeness. The girl, revealing her appearance now that she has stepped out of the backlight, gave me a hard look. You? She wore a primarily pink dress and a thick shawl over it, and had large eyes on her round but well-ordered face. Her light blue hair was wrapped in a bun, the very image of an audacious tomboy. That is the impression I had of her. As for her age, she should be a little older than Bright. My name is Poer. So, who might she be? I turned to ask Alfred. He explained with his expression utterly unchanged. The lady is Ferris Adams, heir of House Adams and a friend of Master Bright's since infancy. You will watch your tone towards her from now on. Aha. Your attire sure is gaudy for a manservant. Apologies, milady. I didn't even know what I was apologizing for, but I suppose it'd be better not to fan the flames now. So where could Bright be? Young Ferris looked around, seemingly unaware of the boy wrapped in my mantle. Suddenly, another silhouette appeared, this one also darkened by the sunlight through the open door. Though this time, it was of someone I knew very well. Did she just jump down the window and circle around the house to get here? Master, are you all right? With the door now closed, the backlight got blocked off, revealing the appearance of, well, the usual Pochi. Shiro, you have jam all around your mouth. Wipe it off. But that would be such a waste. Ferris turned around to look at Pochi, while the latter licked around her own mouth with her tongue. She understood quickly how Pochi was a beast who could communicate verbally, and in turn, realized that I was the real deal. So Poer, was it? You are a mage? Yes. I am currently employed as Master Bright's bodyguard and magic instructor. Once I told her so, the girl had an audacious grin painted on her face. I don't see this ending well at all. Good then. I have been searching for a magic instructor ever since Papa left for Tude too. So what? Seeing the gleam in young Ferris's blue eyes, I felt like wrapping myself in my mantle, just as young Bright had done. Chapter 152, Second Pupil in Antiquity. What should we do now, Master Bright? There's no need to be concerned, instructor. Alfred is tending to her at the reception room. Then why are the both of you hiding under this bed? With me, you and Master all down here, it's getting pretty cramped. Yes, and it's so fluffy. Haha, now she's liking it. Instructor Poer, I dare say Ferris is trying to get you to be her magic instructor as well. Yes. The look in her eyes certainly suggested so. But wouldn't that equal meddling with another household's affairs? Master Bright, if you could say something to convince her dash. I'm afraid that cannot be done. No matter what I say to that tomboy. Apologies for the language. Bright's patience is thrown off this badly. That girl must be quite a pushy one. That and exceedingly stubborn. That would be a fitting resemblance to Hornell. So, Master, how about we try and keep Bright away from her? I am trying to keep him away. And look where it got us. Besides, who knows what Sir Alfred will say if we go into town just like this? It's another story if we were dealing with a kidnapper. But it's the Adams household. They're on friendly terms, you know. Well, for starters, let us make sure that the worst does not come to pass. What do you propose we do then? With me questioning young Bright's statement, he quietly continued. We'll have her return home within the day. Little fire. Wah! Up! Bright narrowly avoided the little fire spell that had come flying at him. I then caught it in my hand and crushed it. And the lesson has just started. Things sure are escalating quickly. I had agreed to teach both Bright and Ferris just for today, but it looks like I've ended up with a stereotypical bully girl and bully boy combination. Lady Ferris, you have to stop shooting magic spells at people. Oh, my hands only slipped. Not that I was one to talk, having done the same to Pochi for centuries. Yes, my hands sure would slip quite often when Pochi is in front of me. The major difference was that Pochi would retaliate with tricks of her own. But Bright wouldn't do that toward Ferris. That might result in worsening the two families' relationships after all. That, and he probably didn't want to cause unnecessary trouble for his sister. So what powerful spells will you be teaching me? Powerful spells? Oh, you wish. Since your hands still slip while handling an elementary level spell, we will work on amending that flaw first. Little fire. Oof dash, that went straight at my face. What a dangerous kid. Do not worry. As you could see, I am very much capable of aiming. Yeah, at me. I heaved a deep, deep sigh, with a greatly troubled expression on my face. But it seemed that young Ferris still failed to understand my message. Bright conveyed to me with the look in his eyes that she was just this kind of person, a totally predictable tomboy princess. All right then. I have heard that you have been taught magic by your father, Lady Ferris. How much have you learned? Well, I have mastered Little Fire and Cure. Young Ferris said as if boasting. Anything other than those? What? Is that not enough? I would like to assume that the master of House Adams hadn't taught young Ferris that much out of consideration of her character. If that was true, would it be safe for me to go ahead and teach her? And would it be all right to leave the final decision to young Bright? Well, no, that's not what I meant. See how I stopped my face's twitching and transitioned it smoothly to a smile? That's worthy of praise, people. Praise me. Shiro, you can teach elementary level magic, right? Oh, I can teach up to the intermediate level, no problem. And when it comes to technical knowledge, I'm already beyond advanced, I say. Pochi certainly looked proud of herself while saying all that. When did she even learn all that stuff, though? Then you oversee and support Master Bright's invocation process. Prioritize his safety, if it looks like things will get dangerous. Leave it to me, sir. Now then, Lady Ferris. What is it? Could you invoke Little Fire again? This time, Aim it right at me. Hey, of course, little fire. Good drawing speed. It's apparent that she's been using the same spell often. Though on the contrary, it is a problem that she hasn't been playing with anything else. I put my index finger in the path of the little fire. Seeing that, young Ferris' face twitched in surprise. She had probably expected me to at least defend, not take the full brunt of it. I mean, it is not good to do that, but this was for the sake of the lesson. What? You could have easily deflected it. Why did you dash? Ow wow. Well, I took it on purpose. Anyone can clearly see that. I held up the index finger I had used for young Ferris to see. She tried to look away from the fresh burning wound, but I harshened my voice to keep her attention. So what now? Could you cast Cure for me? That's your idea of a test? Alright, fine. Cure. Her drawing speed for the recovery spell was below average. Can't blame her though, since it's not necessarily often that one would find themselves needing to use it. The wound on my finger started to heal, but then the effect ended halfway through the process. What? But why? The Cure spell can be used to heal wounds but not burns. You will need a separate recovery type spell for the latter. Then hurry up and teach me. Ferris seemed slightly embarrassed to ask that, what with her frowning and turning away. Then she looked straight up pissed when I handed her a copy of the magic textbook. She did proceed to read it though. All the while, Ferris kept glancing at Bright. She probably felt a sense of rivalry, and also some sort of affection towards him. Quite proactive for someone so young. Now, all things considered, teaching young Ferris a variety of attack spells is a scary prospect. I suppose it'd be better to have her focus on recovery and support for now. She wouldn't necessarily be against it, and some elementary level support spells should be easy enough to learn within the day. So, Lady Ferris, what kind of mage would you like to be? I want to slay the blazing dragon. Come again. Do you not know? It's more commonly called the Lord Dragon. Think of it as an oversized lizard. I do know what it is, but why the blazing dragon specifically? Does that matter? I thought wanting to is what's important here. Seeing how she was ticked off at that last part, she must have some sort of hidden agenda. But still, a blazing dragon, huh? I proceeded to teach young Ferris how to cast Speed Up and Title Up, while young Bright worked on the formula-less methods of elementary level spells, and improving its construction stability. Then in the evening, at just about the time for today's lessons to end, Alfred came up to us. While Ferris struggled with her magic textbook, Alfred downed deeply to her, and then brought about the end by stating the following. Lady Ferris, an escort has arrived for you. All right, I'll go now. Oh, I had expected her to put up more resistance. Young Bright heaved a sigh and clenched his fists, while also taking care that Ferris didn't notice him doing so. Young Ferris, on the other hand, said nothing as she stood up then walked away. She just left without a word. You know what they say about storms, sir. It's always peaceful before they come and after they go. Right. Anyway, once Master Bright is done with his prayers, let's tidy the place up. Yes, sir. I lightly patted Pochi on her head, and proceeded to turn around. But then behind me, I heard footsteps getting louder and louder, even though they were supposed to have gone away. Pochi and I turned immediately around, and sure enough, we saw the young lady standing there, looking high and mighty. Young Bright was already at his limit too. Is she trying to pull something again? Lady Ferris, is something the matter? Nothing at all. Come on, let's pick up from where we left off. Are you not supposed to head back home? Who even told you that? I had only sent my escort back to get me a change of clothes. I have decided to stay right here for the time being after all. Upon hearing that, young Bright face planted onto the backyard lawn, while holding his prayer pose. Really makes me wonder, what in the blazes have I come to the pass for anyway? You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.